Hello, lovely people. So we got a bonus stream tonight, kind of out of the blue. I've got company coming over for the holiday this week, and so I realized that means no stream tomorrow. Um, they were coming, then they weren't, and now they are again. So no stream tomorrow night, no stream Tuesday or Thursday for Thanksgiving Thursday. Um, but I figured I'll pop in as I can. We'll keep working on this stuff because the Kickstarter will happen this month, and I want to keep working on this. So this is exactly where we left off. I'm not sure if anyone's going to show up. This is not my normal. This is not the huge, as the kids say. But everything seems to be plugged in. We got our streams working, no drop frames, going to YouTube and Twitch. Hello, people of Earth. Thank you so much. Let's see what we can do. This sculpt is for my next D&D book called, well, D&D compatible book, to be fair, called The Prayer's Handbook. And we're going to see how much armor we can sculpt in the next, let's say, 90 minutes. We start now, we go to 9 p.m. and see what happens. Normally on a day like this I'd be lurking in David Peterson's chat, but we made some progress last week. On Thursday I sculpted that ridiculous fur loincloth. First time ever trying to sculpt fur. Turned out alright. Let me see if I got a few other things. Everything turned on. Streamlab events. That'll be key. And I'm sculpting this in Nomad Sculpt on an iPad Pro. And we just passed 300 followers. Do I have the name correct on Twitch? I keep getting the YouTube and Twitch language confused. But I'm going to build a collar around the neck of the armor. I feel like we did with the belt, I can take the torso that I've roughly sculpted. We'll use that as a guide for extruding out pieces. So the nice thing about that is we know it'll fit, right? Because if I've sculpted the torso already and I create a piece of armor and extrude it from it, it will be connected with the piece itself. And so we can feel fairly confident that it'll work. One thing I don't like currently, maybe we can fix that right now. Let me save this. It's the books. The books are fine, but the covers are kind of wispy. They're kind of like, they're basically as thin as the pages themselves. And I feel like, given how chunky everything else on the figure is, that the books need to be chunky as well. And currently they're very flat. They currently look like they were pressed in a vise. The pages should be splaying out a little bit. So let's see if we can address this. The first thing I'm going to do is take this book. Oh, I did not mean to select multiple things. Take this top book and we'll separate it. Because each one of there's the covers and then there's the individual pages, and all those things are separate elements. So those are the pages and this is the cover. You can see the various pieces inside there that get weirdly shaped as I'm sculpting things. There is a kind of a core to it, like a candy center. That piece is there so that when this prints, there's something holding everything together. So even if there's a gap in the pages, I've filled it with something. And in the end, all these things will be meshed into a single shape, but I want to make sure it's not a hollow thing. So for the cover, what I was thinking was, and each one of these covers have to have something embossed on them, like runes or something like that. I'll worry about that when they're in position and everything's pretty much where I want. But I was thinking about doing this. If I select mask the book, so basically selecting the whole cover, I should be able to extrude off of it weird. I don't know why it didn't extrude out in all directions. Okay. I'm going to thicken it. Maybe that's the problem. What on earth is happening? Interesting. I turned off the smoothing function, and that seemed to help. So I'm going to reduce the smoothing. I swear, this program gets weird sometimes. Like, I've never had to increase the thickness quite so much. How we doing? All right. Try this. Maybe it's the uniform thickness that's messing it up. Nope. Okay. There's a lot of things happening there that was all contributing to it being weird. I think maybe it was the smoothing function. Interesting. Okay, I'll bring the smoothness down a bit. That's better. I mean, it's really... It looks like garbage. But it's better. So, bring the thickness down a little bit more. That's not bad. That's not bad. That's way better than the others. They're kind of... Hey! How are you, Jumping Mouse? No, I didn't expect to see me at this time either. Just that Tuesday and Thursday this week is going to be messed up for me. I have a house guest tomorrow night, traveling there. Everyone busts on Florida, but it is the place where a lot of people go to visit their family during the holidays. So I get a lot of house guests this time of year. And Thursday's not going to work for anybody, I don't think. So I was like, you know what? I should just stream right now and give it a shot. Is that hollow? So I'm just... oh no, that's just the edges of the other book, the cover poking through. I'm totally fine with that. Great, great, great. Okay, so I'm going to take the cover, the first cover, and this extrusion and join them together. I already like this so much better. Not join. Voxel remesh. So it'll be a short stream tonight, but it'll make up for hopefully make up for the lack of streaming the rest of the week. And I really want this really want everything in place so that we can launch the campaign. It's weird to be having a Kickstarter campaign during the holiday months, but I kind of have to have this one underway to have it out before Zine Quest, February of next year. So that's way better. These other covers, they're fine, but I want the covers to be chunky. I want these to be like old books. Okay, so that's book 5. We'll do the same thing with some of these other covers. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the book that's hinged. Maybe I can just extrude just those covers, just the 3 panels that make up the cover. But we shall see. Let's save. But I've been making a ton of progress on the other illustrations for the metadomain book, that Prayer's Handbook. so much. It's quite good. I was getting a little bit worried that it wasn't going to lend itself to as much art as Intoximancy, for instance, or Death Dealing. But I think this is going to be good. Okay, so again, I don't care about the interior pages. I'm more concerned with the cover. And we're going to do exactly what we did with the other. We're going to invert the selection, and then we're going to extrude out from it, or extract out from it. Yeah. That thickens the cover, and it feels a lot better for me, to me. We'll remesh it. We will clear the selection. And because the covers are thicker, these books are going to overlap a little bit. I'm going to have to move them so they're not quite overlapping so much. I don't want them to look like they've actually melded into each other. I don't mind if the pages inside the books look like that, but I don't want the covers to look like that. That works. That's book 4. We'll do that with same thing with book 3. We separate it. Fortunately, everything on the inside can be joined, and the very first item is the cover. Man, excellent. Voxel remesh, nice and big. I don't think I care about sharp edges. Smooth tool. Oh, gotta clear the selection. Interesting. Did I not clear the selection? It looks like there's a dot still selected. Something to miss. Oh, that's what happened. I merged all the pages with the extruded cover. Sorry. James! Holy cow! Nice to see you. How the hell are you? Clear. All right. So that's book 3. Book 2 is a bear. I'm gonna hit solo so we just look at that. This one's weird because I basically made the other covers very similar to each other. So similar, I don't think people will even tell the difference between them, except the barest difference is that, you know, one has 3 binding elements. Oh. Holy Hannah. David! How are you? Thank you for following, Patrinko. I didn't want to miss a raid, but I might have that calibrated a little too high. Hello, everybody. Hello, raiders. The guard prevails indeed. I just realized, David, I passed my 24 months of subscribing. So it's been 24 months since that free comic book day in what is that? Reisterstown, Maryland, where you said, hey, you should be on Twitch. I'm like, what? Really? Twitch? At my age? With my bad back? So thanks everybody for rating. My name is Steve Conley. I write and draw the webcomic The Middle Age, which you can read at middleagecomic.com. It's on Webtoons and Tapas and Go Comics. I'm a big fan of David's. And I've got a bonus stream today. Normally I don't stream on Mondays, but because of the holiday this week, I'm in North America. So it's a crazy week. I've got house guests tomorrow. And I figured, yeah, we'll just pop in here. I didn't expect this. I was streaming before that. Oh, on YouTube. Just on YouTube. 40 months. Wow. That's great. And in addition to doing my webcomic, The Middle Age, I make role-playing game stuff, mostly for D&D compatible. I make D&D compatible things. Like if you play the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, the one Critical Role plays, the one everyone's been playing for the last 10 years or so, I make RPG stuff for it. Like if you want to be a drunken wizard, just like in my webcomic, you can be an intoximancer. And when I started streaming here 2 years ago or so, that's when I found a program called Nomad Sculpt, which is what we're using here, and taught myself to sculpt. It was still we were just kind of coming out of the pandemic, at least the depths of it, and I was going stir crazy, so I was picking up new, I don't know, more fun things to do, including sculpting. And I always wanted to sculpt some of my own characters, and so I just taught myself how to sculpt. And it's been going really well. It's been really well received. And if you, so far I've gotten 2 RPG books out. If you go to steveconnelly.com/shop, you can see Intoximancy and Death Dealing, which is for rogues who throw cards. And the next one is a metadomain cleric, for clerics who think this all might be a game. And so I start with a little a sketch that you can see right there. So I basically just had an idea. It's called a grognard. It's a creature which is kind of like that's a kind of inside baseball thing for D&D and role-playing games and war games and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, it's called a grognard, and it's going to have a big axe and a lot of books. And I really didn't know. I just knew it had an axe and a beard maybe. And so we sketched this thing out, and I've been sculpting it for the last 6 weeks. Twitch's archives don't go back that far, but if you check out my page on YouTube, you can see this from the beginning, from a sketch where I didn't know where it was going, and sculpting each piece along the way. And this is all sculpted on an iPad. Last week I was learning how to sculpt that fur loincloth. Definitely a nod to Masters of the Universe and He-Man and all that stuff. So right now what I was doing was thickening book covers, because you can see with this book here, I liked it, it's fine, but the cover is almost as thick as the pages themselves, so I wanted to thicken up the covers. So normally I'm streaming here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 to 7 p.m. East Coast time. That may change in the new year. I'm figuring a bunch of IRL stuff out. Sweet. Those are the 3 pieces we needed. Oh, for the love. I really have to make that softer. The audio is very strong. But thanks, Sad King Q. I appreciate it. So I'm going to join these pieces together, even though they're not touching. This will make them one contiguous, at least the computer will think they're all one shape. And then I will turn them, I will invert their selection. Basically, they're not selected at all. So by inverting that selection, since nothing's selected, you hit invert, and suddenly it's all selected. And I'm going to extract the same thickness, which basically just candy coats the piece. So it was thinner, it gets thicker. It basically adds this candy coating around the whole thing. I could dial that up and it would be much larger. That's largely how I make a lot of the things like the belt and capes and stuff like that. Once you have the torso created, you can just paint on the outside and extrude a bit. They call it extract a bit. And what that does is now you've got a belt, or if you want, you select the torso of a figure and extract a little bit. Now you've got a shirt. It's a separate element from the torso. And you can carve that and slice it and dice it however you want. That's much better. I like these thicker covers on these books. So I'm going to join the original bit we extracted from. And we'll remesh. And if none of this techno babble makes any sense, it's 2 reasons. You might be new to the program, and I still feel really new to this program. There's tons about 3D modeling I don't know. I'm a cartoonist primarily, and as I've been telling other cartoonists... Oh, wait, I did that backwards. Oh, no, I did it right. I surprised myself by actually doing it right. That I found this particularly easy to pick up, and I think it was because I've been drawing for 20 years. I think if you know how figures look, if you're good at cartooning, so many sculptors create stuff and it's perfectly fine. It's like really well sculpted. They know the tools inside and out, but they don't know how to think in cartoon terms. They don't know how to make a still thing look like it's alive, and that's what cartoonists do all day long. You know, David's a great example of that. A few lines on a page, and suddenly that thing's breathing. The idea of taking something that's static and making it feel alive is such a big deal, and cartoonists kind of have a, I don't know, we've put many hours into that already, as opposed to the folks going the other way, trying to, who have all the technical skills and now we're trying to add life. So what I do is, when these sculpts, I start with basically a kind of balloon animal. I create little spheres, little. You can see this with the shoulder, for instance. This was just a circle, or let's see the bicep. It was just a sphere that I stretched in a most simple oblong shape. And once I got the pose right, then I go through and I fine tune it. Because the gesture is more important than anything else. I want this character to feel like it's rushing forward and about to clobber you. So the character needs to have armor. I'll be building that. And initially it was going to have much more of that Zeus chest covering, like where the pecs and abs are sculpted into the armor. But as I was sculpting this and trying to make sense of that loincloth, I ended up giving him a kind of a pro wrestling or old school carnival belt, which goes up practically, up into the rib cage. And so, anyway, let's finish these books. But I'm so glad you're all here. That's so very nice of you. I appreciate the raid. Love David Peterson. He is way nicer than he has any need to be. He's so talented. He could be. He wouldn't have to be that nice, but turns out he's every bit as lovely as his work is. I feel really fortunate to have met so many of my cartooning heroes, and they turn out to be really sweet. Okay, so I've selected that book. Again, I'm going to smooth this cover a little bit. So I'll hit solo, so you see, when you hit the solo button, you only see the thing that is currently selected. And I can go through this later on and grab the crease tool and add all sorts of lines and weathering and stuff. A lot of that you won't see because it's a stack of books, right? And so it's going to be covered by another book. So I don't have to worry about it too much. I'm just going to join those together. It's sort of like grouping. Separate. And this file is getting rather large, so I'm saving often in case it crashes. That does happen. Thank you all for being here. Oh! Hey, Artsy Designs. Thanks so much for the follow. My name is Steve Conley. Again, a recap. I'm a cartoonist. You can check out my webcomic, The Middle Age. It's at middleagecomic.com. It's on Webtoons and Tapas and Go Comics. And let's do this. We're going to invert the selection and extract out the cover. I'm thickening up the covers of these books. I felt they were too wispy. So I'm a cartoonist, but I also make role-playing game stuff. And in this case, I'm sculpting what will be a mini. I'm not sure if we'll make a mini of this one. At the very least, it will be an STL file that anyone with a 3D printer can print, because this is going to be a very large figure. You can see some of the other minis I've sculpted down there. Those two rogues are from my last project. Rogue subclass for D&D. So this figure has a base that's twice the size of those. So this is meant to be a monstrous figure that the Dungeon Master places on the table and just scares the hell out of their players. So I'm going to group these together, and I'm sculpting in Nomad Sculpt on an iPad Pro, 4th generation machine. I recommend Nomad Sculpt. It is a great program. It's a one-time fee, and it's available on iOS and Android devices. And if you go to their website, you can actually try it out on most browsers, I think. So if you try Chrome or Firefox, maybe even the latest Safari browser, you can actually play around with 3D. It's got wonderful tools for symmetry, things like that. A lot of things that when you're working with clay, a lot of times you're like, okay, how do I make sure that this eyebrow is equal to that eyebrow, or this cavity, you know, you're digging out a cavity for an eye, making sure it's the same depth for both. It's got symmetry tools so that as you build one brow up, both brows get built at the same time, and both cavities for the eyes get built up, and the nostrils and all that stuff, all very symmetrical. And then at the end, you can do cool stuff like lift one eyebrow, or, you know, tilt the figure a little bit. I do a lot of that. So this skull was, for instance, symmetrical, and at some point I opened the jaw up, I raised one eye a little bit, I put that crack in the skull. Currently the hair is symmetrical, which I hate. I have to fix that before we get too far along, because symmetry's boring. Okay. Sweet. Those books look so much better. It was really bothering me. Okay, so let's build this armor. I was talking about building the collar for this guy. So we'll save one more time. Now the collar, we can make this out of a cylinder. Should be easy enough. You're not going to see the bottom of the collar because of the beard, and there's a lot of shortcuts I took on the back of the head because I knew it was going to be covered by the collar. Let's make it not a perfect cylinder. We'll add a little bit of character to it. Add cylinder. We'll increase the division X. That kind of smooths it out a little bit. We'll validate it. I'm sorry about the beeping. I should have stopped that before I went live. It really was a spur of the moment thing to jump online. Quit. So we shouldn't have beeping. Alright, so we have a cylinder. They start off very small in this environment. I have to scale it up here. Oh, heck. I made a mistake. You'll be able to see in a moment why I should have done that differently. Bringing this up, and then scale this up vertically, and then I can, oh heavens, nope, I didn't want to do that. I want to put a hole in it, so that'll be the collar part of it. I'm going to thin that out a little, and we'll increase the height, and we'll move it up. And you'll be able to see what I'm trying to do here in a moment. We're going to validate it. That turns it from being a geometric thing, sort of like the difference between vector and like Illustrator versus Photoshop. Before you validate it, you can do all sorts of mathematical things to it. But once you validate it, it basically becomes a piece of clay that you can drag around. Maybe see a better example of it here. So from the side view of it, take the trim tool and the polygon tool, and we will give this thing a little more character. Actually, I basically want it to go up in the back so that it helps cover the things I didn't sculpt on the back of his head. So we hit this, and it should cut the thing down. Use the gizmo tool again. And we can bring it down and rotate it. Slide it roughly into place. Oh, I don't want to scale it that way. I don't want to squish it. I want to keep it round if I can. And we're going to do is we're going to hide the head entirely. So you can see that kind of slapdash neck there. I'm just rotating this thing so it should fall. It should follow the same line as the chest. You can scale it a little bit if that helps, maybe. See a weird notch in it. I'm not sure where that came from. That's weird. I'm going to undo a lot here. Let me get this back up top before I cut it. Oh, and the program has 1,000 levels of undo. So it's pretty amazing. Let's see if I can move this back where it was and cut it exactly the same way. I don't know why it didn't fill the shape. Fill holes. Huh. The heck is happening? That glitch is very weird. Alright, you get to watch me try to solve this weird thing. And with the latest batch of upgrades to this program, a lot of these little weird things are sneaking into the program. I'm kind of not thrilled. Okay, we did Boolean. We just basically changed how it cut the shape. And that seemed to do the trick. A pain in the tuchus. Rogues are also a Warcraft thing, but the Spalders are more ridiculous. I love those World of Warcraft Spalders. I used to play on the Horde side, a troll hunter, and did a lot of PvP in the old game. And they had shoulders which were ridiculous and had these like spikes. So if you played a troll, they did a lot of stuff with their arms above their head, and it suddenly always the geometry always pushed the spikes right into your head. It looked ridiculous. It looked great on an orc, but on trolls it was just so dumb, which made me just love it more. Okay, all right, much better. I don't know where that there's a legacy function, which I presume was the culprit. Sweet. Alright, so that's our collar. But I love that chunky World of Warcraft design. It absolutely influences how I sculpt stuff. There's also the sculptors at Weta Workshop. You know, it's easy to say Weta Workshop's amazing, but it's not just their work in film and TV. The collectibles, specifically their mini epics line. If you check out those sculpts for, I can just show you. They did a ton of sculpts for all sorts of properties, largely Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, of course. Let me bring that guy's skull back so it looks a little less weird. Yeah, I might bring that collar forward a little bit, so again it hides more the back of the head. Yeah, this is glorious. This is their sculpt of Gandalf, and it is spectacular. Those curves and those curls in the beard, the hands. I don't know if we can see all that stuff in there, but check out Weta Workshop's store page, and they did ones for Planet of the Apes. They're Cornelius, Zira, and Dr. Zaius. Gorgeous. They did ones for Ghostbusters and, man, I think they did Dark Crystal. But just glorious sculpting and real inspirations. Oh my goodness. Thanks, Petrinko. Thank you so much. But there's also the Disney Infinity toys that were around a few years ago. They were all... It was interesting. They were collectible in as much as, you know, I bet they only were they were probably limited to 50,000 or limited to 100,000 or some ridiculous number. But they weren't like they weren't booster boxes where you randomly get a figure. But the idea was a really lovely idea. It was a video game for the larger platform devices, Xboxes, PlayStations, and you'd plug in this peripheral, and it had like four receivers, basically four little coasters on a platform with little divots, and you could place the miniature in one of those. You could place any one of the any one of the little figures on that, and that was the character you were playing in the game. And I think it was connected to a controller. I think it was four, and so you'd collect the figures. Each one would have a little RFID chip in it. You'd place it in the platform, and that was a character you could play. But the sculpts were gorgeous. They were very chunky. Right? So wonderful. Big, chunky hands. Very Jack Kirby, Bruce Timm, Alex Toth, but in 3D. And wonderful interpretations of the characters. It was a shame it didn't last. I wish I went out and purchased more when they were being all remaindered. They had done some because of Disney. They had done some for Marvel. And those are great. And some Star Wars ones too. But even some of the ones off the... some unexpected ones. The Incredibles ones, in particular, I liked. Because, again, they were very chunky to begin with. But even they found a way to push it further, which was really great. The Jack Sparrow one was really good. But that stuff is like... That's why I knew I would be terrible, and one of the reasons why I would be a terrible customer. I was looking for the longest time to make sculpts of my characters for my comic, and I thought I would be awful because I'd be like, hey, can you be more like the Disney Infinity? I'm like, well, I can't afford the Disney Infinity guys, so asking anyone who's not them to work in that style is wrong. So eventually I just kind of broke down and taught myself. Not that I'm anywhere in the league with them, but they're definitely my North Star. I'm going to remesh this. Whoa, that's complicated. Way too complicated. I'm using the smooth tool just to burnish out the edges here a little bit. You can get them used for a good price on eBay pretty often just to make sure they're not too worn. Oh, that's a good idea. I've been thinking about, at the comic conventions, I do lots of the regional shows. I say regional, like Baltimore Comic Con and Heroes Con are big regional shows. They bring in people from all over the East Coast, like the Mid-Atlantic, but they're not San Diego. Where San Diego and New York, they don't really have vendors who set up to sell stuff, right? They're not like, here's the back. You might find a few people selling back issues, but it's not like you're going to find a booth selling books. Or if you do it San Diego, it's like, you know where the one guy is who does that. And you better get there on Thursday, otherwise they're going to be picked clean. But I love the local shows. Like down here in Florida, there are some that are like, it's basically a garage. It's 20 garage sales under one roof. It's held at a, you know, in some not a field, but in a, you know, not in a convention center. And those are great. At the first time I ever went to one, I'm like, because I was brought in to be a guest at one of them, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it was just not This is not the comic show I thought it was going to be. It was absolutely a little bit like a yard sale, a little bit like a church bazaar, that kind of thing yeah, church bazaar. So that was the memory from when my childhood was. You go there and it's like just a bunch of tables and someone's selling, their handcrafted things. Somebody's selling their. Oh boy, turn off symmetry, but I'm trying to dig into the shape here. I'm just trying to build this. You're not going to see too much of the neck, but I want to at least hint at like the muscularity. I'm watching some of the. There's a is it not D&D specific, but a nerditry specific fellow named oh man, the Bard. He's on YouTube. I'm forgetting the name of his exact. Oh, I'm a terrible Uber fan. I'm gonna hide the books for the moment just so I can see the neck. And he's got some wonderful videos about why HeroQuest is so great, and he just has a great presentation. He says muscularity a lot, and whenever I'm sculpting, I just have that voice in my head. I'm just building up. You can't. This is way underneath the shape, but I'm just trying to make sure that there's enough material under there that's connecting with the skull so that it will print properly when the time comes. Yeah, I love the idea of picking up those figures. I don't know where I'd put them, but I don't know if you were all like. I'm just running out of display space for stuff. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I'm going to rotate this collar just a little bit more. And maybe extend it up a little bit more. I don't mind if it covers the back. I just don't want it to wedge into the hair. Or maybe I do. Yeah, I don't mind that. The hair can touch that. That cavity will be a pain in the butt for anybody who's trying to print this thing. Let's do this. I'm going to clone that collar and shrink it down. Scale it, then bring it down a little bit. So it's sort of like the collar has an interior band. And that interior band should maybe connect with some more of the pieces on the inside and maybe make printing a little easier. Maybe. But thank you for the follows. David, thank you for the raid. I'm not sure if you're still here. If you're off enjoying dinner, I hope you are. Thank you again. Oops, I moved it. That's one of the downsides of the program, is that you can absolutely rotate something or scale it accidentally and find yourself down some rabbit hole of edits. Like, oh, I've made all these changes, and then I've lost, and it's too late for me to undo that one thing. That's why I end up saving lots of versions of this. Kind of like a save point in a video game. So by the end of a finished sculpt, I'll often have like 10 or 11 versions of the thing that I've saved along the way. And so if I mess up something like a hand, I can just export that hand by itself and bring it back in, and this program will put it right back into place. So let's say I'm working on this particular hand. I could save just that hand and then import just that hand into another document. It would slap it right in the same place. So it's pretty awesome. Again, this is called Nomad Sculpt. Like $15. A one-time fee, no monthly fees. Okay, that's pretty good. Eventually, when the armor's in place, the books will... I'll make sure the books connect with the armor and the arms and stuff like that. How are we doing on time? We're doing great. Doing great. The very last thing I'm going to do is build that cape. It's a fur cape. I haven't built anything that complicated. Or the only first stuff I've ever built was this loincloth, and it worked out pretty well, I think. Yeah, I don't really like how it's intersecting with the belt there. Maybe I'll just leave that alone for now. As if it's the fur is. See, I don't mind it there. I like how it climbs up the belt a little bit. Yeah, I'm overthinking it. All right. And one of the things I want to do here is I want to save this and then merge some of those books back together again, so I can help reduce the file size here. So, left hand, book, we will join that together. And now once it's joined together, we're going to go to miscellaneous decimation, and that will bring the file size down that way. We'll hit it twice. And that brings it down to 127K. It was almost a megabyte before. Let me bring it down again. Now it's 64K. Or 64 megabyte, excuse me. I think. I don't know, I've lost track. Okay, we'll join that together. And we'll decimate that. Oh, it is K. Excuse me. 332K, 166K. Now half that. Each time you hit that button, it cuts it in half. Marcus! Hello! LJ, it's so nice to see you. It is a good night. There's an oddball stream for me because the holiday week. I expected a house guest tomorrow night, and then their plans changed, and today their plans changed back. So no stream tomorrow. So I'm streaming today, and I think this week and weekend I'm going to try to squeeze in other streams as I can. Oh my goodness! Invitation. Thank you so much. I appreciate the follow. I normally stream Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. East Coast time, but that will likely change in the new year. I'm trying to figure out IRL stuff. There's a webcomic I do called The Middle Age, and I'm currently trying to reschedule everything around it. It has taken the brunt of a lot of work time schedules I have. Like I do a lot of cartooning for freelance wise. I've been doing a lot of educational comics. And they're lovely projects. They're worthwhile projects. They're using comics to teach kids in schools all around the country, all around the U.S. And I love that work. But it has taken away the prime time that I would work on The Middle Age, and as such there hasn't been an update in a couple of months now. And IRL in real life, LJ. So not the stuff on the stream, not the stuff in the games. I think of that kind of the part of my life that's not broadcast. It's a gaming term. It's like World of Warcraft. They would have like you. I have to deal with things IRL. I think it also means in a lot of online communities they think of things that way. I don't know the full derivation. Book 5. I'll double check book 4. I don't know if I finished decimating that. I did not. That's 656k, and we can bring that down like by 90%. Let's save. See how that's doing for our file size. Still bright red. This loincloth might be a culprit. Yeah, that helps a lot. I'm going to pin that so I can see it. I'm just checking the file size of a lot of these things and helping reduce them if I can. Yeah, the hair is about a megabyte. Alright, that seemed to help quite a bit. Instrumentation. This much easier for me than Blender. It has a fraction of the functionality. It's got none of the animation components. You can't really rig these figures. You can't have like a skeleton and then apply that. Like you can. It seems as though Blender. I don't have that much experience in it, but you could like download a pre-existing walk cycle or something like that, or like a dance move or something like that, and apply it as long as your skeleton is compatible with the skeleton that you've downloaded, and your figure will then move. None of that's here. Normally when in Blender people are creating the thing in the kind of that Vitruvian Man perfect view of the character, very symmetrical, and then they put rigging inside it and then move the figure how they want. In this case it's more like a big lump of clay. And that's why I start with a balloon animal. Get the pose right. This bicep, this forearm, and shoulder and torso are largely untouched from when I created them at the start. I just took this round shape and slightly tapered it, and then notched in pecs and hints of where the rib cage might be. The head starts as a sphere. Each hand starts as a sphere. It's all, again, if you go back on YouTube, it goes back. This is like the 6th episode or 6th stream where we're working on this figure. About halfway, the first stream, part 1 is like 3 hours long. If you go about 90 minutes in, the sketch is done, and I start sculpting the thing, and you can see how I basically start the whole thing. Get the thing kind of where I wanted. It all started with that sketch, and I just wanted to match the energy of it if I could. Hopefully amp it up if I actually had my druthers. That's right, I said druthers. That's how this channel attracts the young people. Hey, did you check out that druthers stream? Okay. I want to put skulls galore on this thing because it's supposed to be ridiculous. So that's why the thing holding the armor in place is going to be a skull. Each knee's got a skull. The belt buckle's a skull. The dumber the better. All right. Got the collar for the armor. The collar's going to have to be taller if we're really going to build out the armor. Oh, that's right. I'm going to try to reset the center of the pivot point. Perfect. Much taller. That's good. So we're going to build in some of those ridiculous World of Warcraft style spalders. shoulder pads and the kind of a Doctor Doom style elbow joint in the armor, like just a spherical. I don't know if you know the cartoonist Wally Wood. He put them on everything, and so we'll do some of that. We're gonna this if this stream has any purpose, it's to bring the word druthers back. I'm not sure why I try to build up the muscles and then only to cover them in armor. What is that? That's part of the shoulder. We're going to bring that in. Okay, this feels pretty good so far. That collar thing is ridiculous. Sweet. Okay. I rotated it. They kind of messed it up on that side there. That's the part I'm worried about. That'll be the side people can see. Because the collar has to pop up past the armor. Oops. I don't want it to mess up the hair too much. Oh, that's not bad. I don't mind if it... I don't think I mind. Scale that up a little bit. No, let's bring it back down. How we doing? Streaming 1 hour, no drop frames. I really appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate the encouragement, the follows. That's lovely. So the idea with this next subclass I'm doing, each one of these books started with Zine Quest in 2022. It's basically a thin 32-page book. I also do a hardcover version just because I really couldn't decide which cover I wanted, whether the red cover or a blue cover. And so I use them both. And that started a whole thing. Now every book's got to have those two options. The first one was for drunken wizards, so if you want to be a wizard in D&D, and oddly D&D doesn't have rules for drunkenness, not built in. They had rules for poisoning, but not for drunkenness. So I basically said it's just pleasantly suffering the poison condition. It's got rules. It's got for working drunken wizards into your game, and then the next one was for card-throwing rogues, and this one was for clerics who think this is all just a game. I always say it like it's a question, because the idea is that almost a like Neo or Deadpool, being very aware of the fourth wall, and that the gods are just sitting around a table rolling dice, and that sort of thing. And so far the response from people, I was at my first gaming convention back in October, and the response has been very kind. They absolutely, they don't see those things, but there is a pint pot of pink pachyderms where it's a magic item that anybody can drink from, and immediately it's like 3 spectral elephants will fly out and fight on your behalf. But there's a section on a pipeweed variant. If alcohol is not your thing, the pipeweed variant. This section is precisely 420 words long. I was very proud of that. But the PDF is available from DriveThruRPG and on my own website, and the books are available from my website too. But if you're thinking about getting something from my website, hold off until tomorrow. I think I'm going to be able to set up a code on the website, or at least a limit on the website. Any order above a certain dollar amount will get free shipping. And I thought that's, as a person who's shipping out of their second bedroom, the global headquarters of StefCon Industries, I figured free shipping is the best I could do for Black Friday. All right, let's do these shoulder pads. How am I going to do those? I could build them off of the deltoid, off of the shoulder. That would ensure that they follow the form of the arm. Maybe I think I should just build them out of cylinders. I worry that cylinders are just going to be sterile. They'll feel like 3D, right? Anything that's that geometric just feels like Toy Story 1. Or worse, like that with the first tin toy, which is great and all, but for its time. But anything nowadays, I think people immediately pick up on the 3D-ness of something. I don't think I need to change the bicep at all. That'll just become armor. It's ridiculously large already. It doesn't. If I thicken that further, the character will just fall over. So it's mostly the shoulder armor, and I want to build it once and then flip it over. Normally I hide all that behind a cape. Telemod. I apologize for that. This is a kind of a last minute idea. I'm like, it was like 7:15. I'm like, oh, I can't stream tomorrow. What am I going to do? I'll just stream right now. And then David Peterson was kind enough to send a bazillion people over here. Way more than I ever get. So thank you all for being here. All right, I'm going to try, let's assume that the back armor is fine. Let's leave that alone. I like that. That will be our armor. We don't have to change the chest at all then. We could build up the pecs a little bit. We really just need the shoulders. And they have to fix symmetrically. Okay. We could do this. Shoulder, shoulder, chest. Solo. Let's see what we got here. Okay, that's not the shoulder. Dang it. Okay, that's kind of our shoulder. Let's do this. We'll clone this. We'll clone these pieces. And then we will remesh them together. And we'll move them out of the way. And so the idea is we're going to create this other shape, and we're going to extrude pieces off of it, and then we can delete this thing. So we can make modifications to it, smooth things out a little bit. I'm going to see if symmetry will do what I want. Wait, first, gizmo tool, pivot, center. Lock the pivot. Smooth, and see if that will... Local. No, it will not do what I want. That's alright. We'll make it work. We're going to flip the whole thing anyway. Smooth tool. Ooh! Undo, 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 undo. We're going to go back when we cloned it. Before we merge it all together. Clone. Join. This is different than fusing them together. What I've simply done is group them together. And I can ungroup them now. So I'll separate them. And now expand that part out a bit. And I can try building everything off of this shoulder piece. So just so I can see it, I'm going to change the color a little bit. Alright, alright, alright. I don't know if this will work, but we'll give it a shot. We'll use the selection mask tool. We'll turn off, we'll click front facing vertex only. What this means is when we draw through the thing, when we draw on the thing, we won't draw through the thing. It'll just, this will just apply to the side we can see. We'll use the lasso tool. We'll do the lower plate first. We'll assume this is going to have 2 plates. And we will extract this. Could be chunkier than that. Increasing the thickness. Chunkier than that. And we can actually use the smoothness function. We're increasing that number. Man, it could be chunkier than that. Ask myself, what would Thrall do? Okay. Good, good, good. Now we'll do that again. We'll clear the selection. And then with this selection mask tool and the lasso tool, when we extract this, we'll go much higher, like double the thickness. That might be way too chunky. I'm going to hide the arm. Okay. So those 2 extrusions will join the clone, and we will local flip and just see how bad that looks, what it did. Interesting. It's like I can't have those. Oops! I can't have those 2 pieces be like a cylinder going all the way through the body. Like you'd think if they were attached to the shoulder, attached to the main breastplate, like they might be locked in position. Like there might be a pin here and here, a couple of pins that would mean that when one moves, the other moves. Like I feel like they have to have some irrational properties so that I can keep the ridiculous pose of this ridiculous figure. I'm going to squish them a little bit too here. Which means I have to squish the other ones as well, assuming I group them. I did. I'm going to fix the pivot point. And I'm going to attach the cape to the back of these, so I think that will help hide anything too egregious. I don't hate them. Kind of looks the part. have to fix this. You can see that the gizmo is currently all weird. Every time you flip something in this program, it doesn't flip the gizmo orientation. You'd think if something was at a 45-degree angle and you'd flip it to the other side, it would fit the other 45-degree angle. But it doesn't. And when you mirror it, it keeps the same angle on both sides. It's a little infuriating. Maybe there's a way to do it. I've consulted the interwebs with no luck. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it as best I can. And that will hopefully let me rotate it the way I want to on the figure. Now this skull emblem will need to change, of course. Oh man, it could just be affixed to the epaulette. I can ungroup that. This is right shoulder armor. And I name everything based on the camera view, not on the creature's perspective. You know, it might be its left shoulder, but to me it's its right. I'm going to trim down the armor based on the location of that skull. So select. So I'm looking for the trim tool, the lasso tool. I'm just going to cut that part of the shoulder out. Angles are all off. Right, now we'll take the skull emblem. I will clone that. We'll slide that across. Well, I'm glad you're able to pop in when you could, Telemon. All right. Yeah, I think that the cape in the back is going to do a lot of... will cover for a lot of sins. I want to put some sort of trim on the side. Just talking to that. Hey, Sven. Is this ZBrush? No, this is Nomad Sculpt. So this is... I'm working on my iPad. So I'm going to select that background color, and we're going to paint these things back to, you know, the basic color we have here, which I think is just white. This is currently using a matte cap, which sort of applies a single rendering style to everything in the environment. I can show you what I mean by that. And this is the default one, which I find the most helpful. Just different styles of seeing the thing. I like this one. I like this one because it helps show problems with the model a lot more easily. I'm gonna remesh this thing, keeping sharp edges, and then I'm gonna smooth out the edges a little bit. And now I'm gonna cover them up. And this, oh, there's a little bit poking out there. I'm going to trim that off. So selecting just that object, I'm going to grab the tube tool and the curve tool, and we're going to drag along that top edge. Just kind of eyeballing it. A little wobbly there at the end. And I will increase the division X, which will smooth it out and validate it, and we'll see about smoothing out the ends of it. The idea is I want to put a little bit of piping along the edges of this thing. I'm going to tuck it into the medallion. And I really appreciate everyone being here. Do hit the like, subscribe, follow, ring the bell, light the fires of Gondor. I'm going to wrap it up shortly here. I think I made some good progress tonight. I really appreciate everyone being here. Bring back this forearm so we can see it. But it was a little bonus stream. Again, I can't stream tomorrow. I wish I could. What would Thrall do? That's a fair point to lot. I miss Thrall. I miss a good speech. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Lovely. Let's see if we can go raid somebody. This is not gonna. These words aren't gonna mean anything to the folks on YouTube, but on Twitch, we get to all point our cameras at somebody else. Oh, I'm having a terrible hair day. That's what I get. As soon as I can get Twitch to launch on my browser, tell them thank you all so much. Thanks, Sven, for being here. Thanks, everyone, for following. And David Peterson, thank you again for your raid. That was awesome. And we're going to go over to Twitch here, and we're going to find somebody whose work we can watch. So again, this is a grognard. It'll be in the if you check out prayershandbook.com. It's my next Kickstarter for D&D 5th edition. This STL file will be available as part of the campaign, but it'll also be referenced for an illustration. Once I get the camera in just the right angle, we're going to color this thing, and I'm going to paint it here on the stream. So if you come on back, we can do that. I don't see any of my usual suspects, but Tabletop Minions is lovely. Let's go check out what they're doing. I really dig their stream, and their production values off the charts. So we'll go there. Channel. I can do this. I always am like, maybe I can do it. I don't know. Raid Tabletop Minions. Nathan, thank you so much. I'll see you next time. All right, we'll go check out Tabletop Minions. Thank you again, everybody. Have a lovely night. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I will pop in possibly if I can make this happen. And yeah, thank you again.